Well, it looks like former BC Liberal Premier Gordon Campbell has decided to cross the aisle. Even he can see the writing on the wall and says, how are we building the future for Canada? That's what I'm voting for, and I think that Mr. Poilievre has the platform that will get us there. This is the former BC Premier Gordon Campbell. Let's take a listen.
So you wrote an op-ed, and that's obviously why I got you here, because I thought it was very interesting. You wrote in it that people should forget Trump and vote for Canada, vote for its future, and put aside the issue of Donald Trump, that we need to think about how to pursue Canadian dreams. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Donald Trump through this election campaign. Why are you telling Canadians to think about this election differently?
Because I think when we're only talking about Donald Trump, we're talking about fear. It seems to me that Canada has all the tools we need to build the kind of future that we want. And we should remember how strong we are, that we can be independent. I think, unfortunately, over the last 10 years, we've been weakened. We're not as resilient as we were. We're more dependent on the United States now than we were when the federal Liberal Party was elected. Yeah. And it's time for us to recognize this is an important decision for us. It's an important decision for the next generation of Canadians. And one of the things that I'm concerned about is it feels to me like the next generation has been left behind. They're forgotten. So I think it's important for us to remember Canada. We have all the resources we need, but we have to liberate them. We have to put them to use. We can't play the uncertainty game. People have to know that Canada is here to get things done, and we can do them. Canadians should remember how strong Canada is as a country. We don't have to be, moved around by Donald Trump's whims. We have to, commit to ourselves and where we can go as a country.
One of the things that you also bring up is pipelines, which obviously has been part of the election campaign, promises on all sides to develop them. You write that building pipelines is pragmatic, not to build them is wrong. Both Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney have said they're ready to build more pipelines.
So first things first, actually, Carney says pipelines are not necessarily among major projects to prioritize. Carney pledges faster project reviews to make Canada energy superpower, but if you go further into the article, it says that promise would not likely change the process for major oil and natural gas pipelines. And if you go even further to the government website itself, they actually want to strengthen the industrial carbon pricing, which would most likely slow down any natural gas pipelines that were to be built in the future.
But I understand people may have different views about who's going to actually get it done. But do you think that pipelines should be a central focus of the ballot box question, at least maybe for Western Canada? Or give me your views on why you think that's such an important issue.
I think it's a really good question because I think it's for all of Canada, not just for Western Canada. Right. It's like going into an international hockey game and saying, we're going to leave Connor McDavid and Mitch Marner and Nate McKinnon on the sidelines because we don't really need all of our tools. We need to use the best of what we've got. We have exceptional energy resources. The Liberals stopped the Northern Gateway pipeline. That was wrong. And it was done after a process. So the uncertainty that has been created, and Mr. Carney continues this uncertainty. He says one thing in British Columbia, another thing in Quebec. We're told there's a national emergency. Then we're told, well, maybe not so much when it comes to pipelines. We need to have those pipelines to build the economic future for this country. Right. We need them to build the kind of opportunities and the foundation for hope for young people, not just pipelines, all of our natural resources. Our mineral resources, our energy resources, our agriculture resources.
Yeah. You of course, know, though, that the Liberal government was the government that bought a pipeline.
Yeah, I know they were the government that bought a pipeline, and I know they're also a government that stopped a pipeline after it had gone through all the process and was ready for approval. Right. So when we're told that, we're worried about our economy, I can tell you one of the things that undermines every economy is uncertainty. Yeah, for sure. You can't say one thing in one part of the country and another thing in another part of the country. You have to be clear. If this is a national emergency, we are going to build pipelines. They're going to reach the Asian markets. They're going to reach the European markets. It makes no sense for us to bring, outside energy into Canada when we are so rich in energy resources as we are. So I think that's a really important issue for all of us. Yeah. And I think it's important for all Canadians. Canadians can't even get, Ontario and Quebec can't get their energy right now without it going through the United States.
You don't, in your op-ed, Mr. Campbell, endorse Pierre Poilievre. You don't mention him at all, actually. But I would imagine that is your choice, is it? Why did you not mention him in your op-ed, or are you still thinking about where your support should go?
No, I'm not thinking about where my support should go. I think we should hold governments to account.
Yeah.
The Liberal decade was a dismal decade for Canada. Their immigration policies hurt every one of our cities. They made our housing problem worse. They made our healthcare problem worse. They made our educational problems worse. We have to hold governments to account. One person does not a government make. I wouldn't count on the federal government delivering and executing a program anytime as long as it's the same group that's been there the last 10 years. They've been incompetent and they've led us down the wrong road. I'm not saying they weren't well intended.
Yeah.
They just didn't do the job. They have to do the job, not just for me and my generation. We've been taken care of pretty well. But I'll tell you, my grandkids deserve to have a government that's thinking about them, not thinking about debt, not thinking about expediently taking care of this group or that group. How are we building the future for Canada? That's what I'm voting for. And I think that Mr. Poilievre has the platform that will get us there.
And there you have it. So not an endorsement by any means, but definitely coming out and saying I'm voting for him would be probably a major shock to a lot of Liberals. But at the end of the day, it's got to be eye-opening. You would hope other people would also look at this, take his word for it, and see that the past 10 years cannot be forgotten just because of the past 3 months. Like I said, the writing is on the wall, and I think a lot of people are hopping on board here. The blue wave could be very real this election, and at this point, I can only hope so. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that sub button. Thanks for watching.